Hi, my name is Lucchese and I'm here to listen to Charlie's speech.
Hi, I'm Lucchese. I'm here to listen as well, and I'm going to do the camera. Let's get started.
Hi, my name is Charlie. Let me get started. I want to thank everyone for joining me today. Today I am here to inform all of you about hypoglycemia, unawareness, and a little about diabetes. Here's a little joke my wife once told. A diabetic walks into a bakery and asks the guy behind the counter, "What do you got that is safe for diabetics?" The baker says, "Everything, as long as you don't put it in your mouth." But seriously, let's get started. Diabetes is a disorder of the metabolism, the way the body uses digested food for growth and energy. Most of the food people eat is broken down into glucose, the form of sugar in the blood. Glucose is the main source of fuel for the body in people with diabetes. However, the pancreas either produces little or no insulin, or the cells do not respond appropriately to the insulin that is produced. Glucose builds up in the blood, overflows the urine, and passes out of the body into the urine. Thus, the body loses its main source of fuel, even though the blood contains large amounts of glucose. The three main types of diabetes are type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. An autoimmune disease results when the body's systems for fighting infection. The immune system turns against a part of the body. In diabetes, the immune system attacks and destroys insulin-producing beta cells. In the pancreas then produces little or no insulin. A person who has type 1 diabetes must take insulin daily to live. The most common form of diabetes is type 2 diabetes. About 90-95% of people with diabetes have type 2. The form of diabetes is most often associated with older age, obesity, family history or diabetes, history of gestational diabetes, physical inactivity, and about 80% of people with type 2 diabetes are overweight. Some women develop gestational diabetes late in pregnancy. Although this form of diabetes usually disappears after the birth of the baby, women who have gestational diabetes have a 40-60% chance of developing type 2 diabetes within 5 to 10 years. Maintaining a reasonable body weight and being physically active may help prevent the development of type 2 diabetes. About 38% of pregnant women in the United States develop gestational diabetes. The signs and symptoms of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes usually develops over a short period. Although the beta cell destruction can begin years earlier, symptoms may include increased thirst, urination, constant hunger, weight loss, blurred vision, and extreme fatigue. If not diagnosed and treated with insulin, a person with type 1 diabetes can lapse into a life-threatening diabetic coma, also known as diabetic ketoacidosis. The symptoms of type 2 diabetes develops gradually. Their onset is not all of a sudden as type 1 diabetes. Symptoms may include fatigue, frequent urination, increased thirst and hunger, weight loss, blurred vision, and slow healing of wounds or sores. Some people have no symptoms. Women with gestational diabetes may not experience any symptoms. Let's start by talking about hypoglycemia. One of the more distressing problems in diabetes is hypoglycemia unawareness. Normally, a person will feel warning symptoms, then their blood sugar goes low, such as shaking, sweating, caused by release of stress hormones. However, with the hypoglycemia unawareness, have reduced warning signal and do not recognize they are low. Even if they happen to do a blood sugar test, may not realize that they need to treat the low blood sugar. Luckily, stress hormone release is adequate and eventually raise the glucose level, although this may take several hours to work. Signs of hypoglycemia unawareness are basically having a low blood sugar and having no symptoms. My wife has suffered from this for years, but it wasn't until after the loss of our daughter that we realized she suffered from this. My wife says that she has no symptoms and doesn't feel like her blood sugar is low, but I can usually tell. Most diabetics have a tell sign. My wife happens to get raccoon eyes. She gets dark circles under her eyes and she starts slurring her words as if she's drunk. My wife states she doesn't usually feel any signs until her blood sugar is below 30, and then she is not doing too well. Who does this affect? Hypoglycemia unawareness is not rare, occurring in 70% of those with type 1 diabetes. Symptoms of a low become less obvious after having diabetes for several years because of repeated lows, impair the body's release of stress hormones. The major counter hormone that causes glucose to be released to the liver and raise blood sugar in glucagon. Glucagon secretion is reduced in most people have type 1 diabetes within the first 2 to 10 years after onset. Hypoglycemia unawareness may be triggered by a recent history of frequent low blood sugars, a rapid drop of blood sugar, having diabetes for many years, stress or depression. Situations where self-care is low priority, alcohol consumption in the last 12 hours, a previous low blood sugar in the last 24 to 48 hours, use of certain medications like beta blockers. How to live with hypoglycemia unawareness. Living with hypoglycemia unawareness is really something to be concerned with. My wife happens to wear an insulin pump that is connected to the monitor called a continuous glucose monitoring system, or CGM. The CGM tests her blood sugar every 5 minutes and relays information to her insulin pump. Her insulin pump relays to her iPhone and alerts of sudden changes. The pump will also sound alarms in case she didn't get the iPhone information. My wife was testing her blood sugar every 30 minutes to an hour because of sudden changes. Hypoglycemia unawareness requires special attention. Diabetes is a growing problem. More people are being diagnosed with diabetes every year and is growing epidemic. Diabetes has had 136% increase or affected people from 1980 to 2007, and more than 24 million people are affected. What is it like to live with diabetes? I know my wife goes through a lot living with diabetes. It's a horrible disease. My wife was diagnosed at the age of 8. She had it for 18 years. She don't believe there'll ever be a cure for diabetes. And it's tough, you know, being married to somebody who has it, but you learn to live with it and you adjust to it. So I help her out as much as I can, and we're doing pretty good. Thank you.